Ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into this political chaos, I need you to do just three things for me. First, smash that like button if you are ready for some ANC drama. Second, share this video with anyone who has been waiting for someone in the ANC to finally tell Pinocchio Ramaposa the truth. And third, subscribe and ring that notification bell because we are about to witness the beginning of the end of Ramaphosa's presidency. Now, let us get into the madness. Talk about when your friend group starts throwing hands because we are witnessing history in the making. The ANC, that beautiful, chaotic, corrupt family we call our ruling party, has officially started eating itself alive. And Cyril Ramaphosa is the main course. Naledi Pandor, the former international relations minister, just delivered the most savage takedown of her own party and president that I've seen since ever. And I'm here for all of it. This woman stood up at a memorial lecture and basically gave Cyril the political equivalent of a public spanking. She said the ANC has lost its glory, and people now look at the party with disdain, horror, and shame. Disdain, horror, and shame, guys. Her words, not mine. But wait, it gets better. She specifically called out leaders with no solutions who keep asking others, how do we solve this? And we all know exactly what she's talking about. Cyril, let me form another committee to investigate the committee Ramaposa right there. Pandor said, and I'm quoting directly here because this is gold, there is nothing worse than a leader with no solutions. She literally said we cannot have leaders who are constantly asking someone else, how do we solve this? Bruv, that's Cyril's entire presidency in one sentence. This man has spent 7 years asking everyone else how to fix problems he was supposed to solve. That's why you voted for him. You thought he had the answers. Load shedding, we are addressing it. Translation, someone please tell me how to address it. The farm murders, we are investigating. Translation, can someone please investigate this for me? Economy collapsing, we are implementing solutions. Translation, hey guys, does anyone know what solutions look like? This man runs the country like he's playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but he's used up all of his lifelines and still doesn't know the answer. What makes this absolutely spicy is that Pandor isn't some opposition politician throwing stones from outside. She is an ANC veteran, former cabinet minister, party insider who was there when the ANC actually meant something. When your own people start publicly roasting your leadership, you know the party is over, pun intended. She literally said the ANC has lost its glory and people view them with horror and shame. That is not criticism. That is nothing but political obituary written by someone who was there during the glory days. It's like your own mother standing up at your wedding and saying, this marriage is doomed, and here's why. The betrayal hits different when it comes from family. Or when The Undertaker says WWE sucks now. Imagine that. Pandor was the international relations minister, so she had front row seats to watching Ramaposa destroy South Africa's global reputation. She saw him fumble the Trump relationship, spectacularly by the way, alienate Western allies while wondering why investment is fleeing. She saw him cozy up in bed with Iran and Russia because nothing says stable democracy like partnering with authoritarian regimes. She saw him turn South Africa into an international laughingstock while taking notes on how to make it worse by Zim. When your own foreign minister, former foreign minister, is basically calling you internationally incompetent, that is not a good look, Chief. That is not a good look. Here's what's hilarious. Cyril has been president for 7 years. 7 years, and he still can't keep the lights on. But somehow, he is surprised that people are questioning his competence. Bruv, you've been addressing load shedding longer than it takes to get a driver's license renewed at Home Affairs. And that's saying something because Home Affairs moves slower than continental drift, slower than the plates under Earth. Pandor is basically saying, how can you lead a country when you cannot even keep the electricity working? Oh, and honestly, valid question, Mrs. Naledi. Very valid question. This is Cyril's approach to every problem. Step 1. Acknowledge the problem exists. Groundbreaking leadership, am I right? Step 2. Form a task team to investigate the problem. 3. The task team recommends forming a committee. 4. The committee suggests establishing a steering committee. 5. The steering committee proposes a working group. 6. The working group advises creating a task force. 7. The task force recommends going back to step 1. It's like playing political musical chairs. But instead of chairs, it's just more committees and the music never stops. Pandor said people look at the ANC with disdain, horror, and shame. And honestly, she's being generous. People don't just look at the ANC with horror. They are actively fleeing the country the ANC is running. The refugee program, I almost said Afrikaner refugee program, exists because people would rather be refugees in America than citizens under ANC governance. That is not horror. That is complete abandonment of hope in the system. It's like being such a bad roommate that your flatmates would rather live in a homeless shelter than stay in the same house with you. Pandor chose to say this now, while the country is dealing with US tariffs crushing our economy, international isolation accelerating, citizens fleeing as refugees, infrastructure collapsing, and general chaos everywhere. She could have stayed quiet, kept collecting her pension, and let things play out. But instead, she chose this moment to announce that the emperor has no clothes. That's significant, Summer followers, because that suggests she thinks things are so bad that staying silent would be complicit in the destruction. When you stay silent, you are part of the problem. What's really interesting is that Pandor represents the old school ANC establishment. She's not some young radical trying to overthrow leadership for her own gain. She is the establishment. When establishment figures start publicly questioning leadership, that's usually the beginning of the end. Imagine if The Undertaker started saying, WWE these days, I don't recommend people watch it because it sucks now. What does that do to WWE as a product? Because Undertaker is WWE. You get what I mean? Like, when you think WWE, you think Cena. Imagine if he said that stuff about the company he was working for. Pandor's criticism about leaders with no solutions perfectly captures Cyril's entire governance philosophy. A problem emerges, then Cyril acknowledges it, and it acknowledges it exists. He forms a task team. That task team produces recommendations. Then he forms a committee. Oh my gosh. And then the committee asks for more time to study. And then he addresses the nation. We are making progress. Then the problem gets worse. And then he repeats the entire cycle. Is that leadership, or is that nothing but bureaucratic masturbation with PowerPoint presentations? Well, from an international standpoint, Pandor's comments confirm what everyone already suspected. The ANC is in crisis, and their leadership is fundamentally incompetent. Foreign investors were already fleeing faster than people escaping a taxi accident scene. Diplomatic relationships were already more strained than Eskom's electricity grid. International confidence was already lower than Julius Malema's chances of winning a Nobel Peace Prize. Okay? Now even ANC insiders are admitting the problems publicly. That's when you know it is bad. The question isn't whether Pandor is right. She obviously is. Anyone with functioning eyeballs can see that Cyril's leadership has been a masterclass in how not to run a country. The real question is whether the ANC has the courage to act on her criticism. Will they dump Ramaposa and find competent leadership? Will they acknowledge their failures and change course? Will they prioritize the country over party loyalty? Based on their track record, probably not. They'll likely double down on failure and attack Pandor for telling the truth, because that's what incompetent leaders do when faced with reality. They shoot the messenger and hope the message disappears. Shoot to kill! Sound familiar? For 7 years, we've been waiting for Cyril's solutions. Load shedding solutions. We are still waiting in the dark doing this. Crime solutions. Still getting robbed while we wait. Economic solutions. We're still unemployed while waiting. Corruption solutions. We are still watching VBS criminals walk free while waiting. I have no idea who that is anyway. You might as well call South Africa Marilyn Monroe, because we're the ones with the 7-year itch now. At this point, waiting for Cyril's solutions is like waiting for Eskom to provide 24-hour electricity. Theoretically possible, practically impossible. Every time Cyril does a cabinet reshuffle, it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while arguing about the best seating arrangements. He moves Minister A from Department B to Department C, and then somehow thinks this will magically solve problems that Minister A couldn't solve in their original position. It is musical chairs with incompetence. Same people, same failures, different business cards. And here is the excuse generator masterclass they have made. Because Cyril has become a world-class excuse generator. If excuses were electricity, we would never have load shedding. If excuses were economic growth, we would be Switzerland or Cyprus. If excuses were international respect, we'd be hosting the G7. But unfortunately, excuses don't power homes, create jobs, or build international credibility. They just make politicians feel better about their failures. What makes Pandor's criticism devastating, though, is that she knows what good ANC leadership looks like. She was there during the Mandela years. She saw what competent governance could achieve. So when she says current leaders have no solutions, she is comparing them to leaders who actually solved problems, built institutions, and commanded international respect. It's like a veteran chief criticizing someone who burns water. The expertise behind the criticism makes it impossible to dismiss. If you take a shot of gin or vodka every time Cyril says we are addressing without actually addressing anything, we are addressing load shedding, then lights go off during the speech, and then you see Cyril's white eyes. We are addressing crime, and then someone steals his iPad. That actually happened, by the way. We are addressing unemployment. Retrenchments announced the same day. We are addressing corruption. Then you hear about Vusiket Matlala. You would be drunk before he finishes his opening remarks. How many shots will you have taken by then? While Cyril has been busy forming committees, the rest of the world has been forming solutions about South African competence. And those opinions, let's just say, are not so flattering. America imposed tariffs. Europe is questioning partnerships. Investors are fleeing. And even our neighbors are looking at us sideways. But sure, let's form another committee to investigate why our international relationships are deteriorating. History will ask, what did Cyril Ramaposa achieve as a president? And the answer will be, he formed the most committees, held the most meetings, and gave the most speeches about addressing problems that got worse during his presidency. That's not a legacy, that is a warning label for future leaders. Pandor's criticism forces a choice. Do we want leaders who actually solve problems, or leaders who just talk about solving problems? Do we want governance that delivers results, or do you want governance that delivers excuses? Do you want a president who takes responsibility, or do you want a president who forms committees to investigate who should take responsibility? The answer should be obvious, but given our track record, we will probably choose the committees. Naledi Pandor just said what millions of South Africans have been thinking for years. Cyril Ramaposa is a failed leader who talks a lot, but delivers nothing. She's right about everything. The ANC has lost its glory. Check. People view them as horror, with horror and shame rather. Check. Current leadership has no solutions. Check. They need selfless leaders, which is not what they have. Check, because they're all too scared. The only question now is whether anyone will listen to her wisdom or continue to pretend that committee formations count as achievements. This is just the beginning, guys. When party veterans start publicly destroying their own leadership, it usually triggers an avalanche of criticism from others who are staying quiet. So expect more ANC insiders to start speaking out. Expect more brutal assessment of Cyril's failures. What's that, pillow? Oh yeah, expect Cyril's new leadership. Remember, he wants to axe some ministers now. So now we wait to see who fires back and who joins the rebellion. And the ANC will do what they always do. Attack the messenger instead of addressing the message. They'll say Pandor is bitter, disloyal, old, or working for the opposition secretly now. But they won't actually address her criticisms because they can't. How do you defend 5 years of failure? How do you justify forming committees instead of solving problems? That's right, you can't. So they'll attack her credibility and hope people forget about the substance of her criticism. We just witnessed a historic moment, the beginning of the end of Ramaphosa's presidency. When your own party veterans publicly declare that your leadership is incompetent, the writing is on the wall. This isn't just political criticism. It's a political obituary written by someone who was there for both the birth and the death of ANC competence. Remember this moment, because this is when the ANC civil war officially began. Those are my words. And before you click away, let me tell you something. We are on a mission here. We are trying to get this channel, this movement, to 100K subscribers by the end of the year, and you do not want to miss that journey. You need to be part of that history. You got to be part of that history. The Summer Sambit is about to become the fastest South African YouTuber to hit 100K subs in history. And when we get there, we are going to celebrate like we just won the World Cup. So hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and let us make history together. Because this isn't just about numbers. This is about building the biggest truth-telling community in South Africa. Let's make it happen. Because guess what? Remember those 2 strikes I got, and then I kept telling you the 3rd strike I get this summer is out? They just expired. It's been 90 days. I'm a free man again. And when you put a man wrongfully in solitary confinement for something he didn't deserve, just what do you think he's gonna do when he gets out? I'm out now. The cat is out of the bag. The bird is out of the bird jail. The summer is no more hanging on a thread. And the dawn is born. Let's grow this movement. This is the Summer Sambit, and like always, I'll see you next time.